Hi there, I'm Rex King. Welcome back to Monday Night Movie. I'm a huge comic book superhero fan. I love them. I've been reading them ever since I was little, and I love the X-Men. They're my favorite superhero team of all times. So it's only natural that I would want to talk about their movies. But which one to talk about? I could start with the first one and just go down the list, but that's been done a billion times. I could start with my favorite one, but that one's also been talked about a bunch of times. So I decided to pick one of the ones that I believe isn't talked about enough. The Wolverine. The Wolverine was directed by James Mangold and was released in 2013. It had a decent critical response and made a decent amount at the box office, about over $400 million. So, why is this movie not talked about that much? Let's talk about it a little bit more. The Wolverine stars Hugh Jackman as Logan once again, since he's played him in every adaptation that Logan appears in, not long after the events of X-Men 3. He's become more of a nomad, living on his own because he's afraid he'll hurt people, and he's also afraid that he'll outlive them. This changes when he meets a girl named Yukio, played by Riley Fukushima, and she tells him that she was sent here by her employer, Mr. Yashida, played by Hal Yakunochi. I apologize if I mispronounce any of these names. And he wants to say goodbye to Logan. So, Logan hops on a plane to Japan to meet with Yashida, only to end up caught up in a weird feud involving the Yakuza, a ninja clan, as they both seem to be after Yashida's granddaughter, Mariko, played by Tao Okamoto. Again, I apologize if I mispronounce these names. And it's up to Logan to protect her from both the Yakuza and this ninja clan. So, this film has a lot going for it. The action is spectacular, and since it focuses only on one character and not a whole bunch of them, it's able to be more of a character study as opposed to just an action bang boom movie. We actually get to know more about Wolverine's psyche, especially considering he's immortal and has had to experience death on a larger scale than most humans will ever have to in their lifetimes. He's also dealing with the fact that he's had to personally kill loved ones in his past and is now having to come to terms with that, especially considering he will never die given the current situation that he's in. However, things take a change when his healing factor is completely taken away from him in this movie, meaning he can actually take damage and his life is in danger, adding more suspense to the action. And that's what works in this movie's favor. For most of the movie, Logan does not have his healing factor, and that is spectacular for the movie because it actually creates a decent amount of tension. You do not know how he's going to win these fights because he can't just charge headlong in, because he'll actually take a decent amount of damage if he does. Now, though that works for the movie, the issues is it tends to focus too much on the action. There's not enough breathing room in between certain action scenes where we get to see our character actually feeling vulnerable. Don't get me wrong, we do have those scenes, they're just few and far between. And in a solo movie, that's kind of a problem. I mean, don't get me wrong, we did get to learn a decent amount about Wolverine in the first 3 X-Men movies and in X-Men Origins Wolverine. All movies came out before this one. But this is a good chance to get deeper into the character psyche, especially after the events of X-Men 3, which were polarizing for the character. But even though I'm saying that, I enjoy the action. I enjoyed the pacing of the action, the way it was shot. It's not a ton of shaky cam. I really enjoyed it. Especially the fight between Logan and Shingen, played by Hiroki Sanada. Again, apologize if I mispronounced this name. Towards the end of the movie. I will be getting into spoilers from here on out, by the way. So, that brings me to the issue, though. That fight is the second to last fight in the movie. But it's intense, it's drama-filled. The only issue with it is he got his healing factor back, so the tension's kind of superfluous because Shingen can't kill him. But that would have been fine. I still feel like the fight was perfectly fine. Then we get to our final fight and the issues I have here. And we're going to get into the issues that I have with comic book movies in the modern day. And that is the need to make the final fight scenes overcomplicated. So, for those of you who don't know, and again, spoilers, so if you want to see this movie, again, I advise watching it before watching the rest of this video, but you've been warned. The final boss is a fucking mech suit. And for those of you who have watched this movie, I just want to let you know, in the comic books, the Silver Samurai does not use a mech suit. The Silver Samurai is literally just a mutant who can cut through anything by infusing some sort of energy with his sword. Yes, it's goofy, but why did you make him a mech suit? That doesn't make him less goofy. That just makes the entire feeling superfluous. And gosh darn it, when we had actually good fight scenes person to person, just seeing Logan fight a CGI mech suit, it's aggravating. Because this movie deserves better. It could have been a better fight scene. Gosh darn it. And this is my problem with comic book movies, period. I do not like the fact that we are going to see CGI fight scene after CGI fight scene, overcomplicated, big, massive fights that we do not need to see. You can keep it simple and just have like a sword fight or a fist fight. As long as the action is interesting and energetic, it could work. And in fact, a lot of the time, those simpler fights are a lot better than this big CGI slugfest that we seem to be getting in every comic book movie as of late. Oh, God, does that feel frustrating. But to answer the question, why is this movie probably the least memorable? Or the least talked about, at least? Well, that probably has to do with the fact that, as far as anyone can tell, it's canon, but has the least impact on the canon. Like, this, you could take this movie out of the X-Men canon, of the Fox X-Men movie canons, and you would lose absolutely nothing. The character does not change completely. The character doesn't go for a transformation that we can clearly see in the next movie in X-Men Days of Future Past. He doesn't. He still feels the same. So that's more than likely why this one isn't talked about. Because it has no impact on the canon. Usually you want to talk about the movies that had the biggest impact and talk about how they reshaped the canon. This one had none. Now, does that mean this movie deserves to be forgotten about? No. Despite all my complaints, I still enjoy it. I enjoy the action. I enjoy Hugh Jackman as the Wolverine. I still think that Logan, the film that came out after this one, is infinitely better, but this film is still a decent standalone movie. If I could separate the fact that they screwed up the Silver Samurai character, it would be even a better movie. But I can't do that because I actually like that character. Anyway, I'm giving this film a 6 out of 10. Again, it's not a bad movie. It's a fun time. If you haven't seen it in a while, it's worth revisiting. Now, is it worth getting on Blu-ray? Not really. To be honest, the only thing that the Blu-ray has going for it is a in-depth making of. But that making of is not that interesting, really. It doesn't give any interesting trivia tidbits that I didn't already know going into this film. So you could just get the DVD or just watch it on streaming. I don't think it needs to be a desperate part of your collection, unless you're really trying to collect every X-Men film ever made. Well, next week I take a look at a Gene Kelly musical, An American in Paris.